Hello, my name is Carly Munns. This presentation looks at the idea that the current protected lands within the United States may mismatch biodiversity priority areas. We will first review some of the research surrounding the topic. Then we will develop research questions pertaining to the research. Finally, we will take a look at some of the GIS models and maps that can be extracted from this information. The article by Jenkins et al. Explains the conservation mismatch occurring between what is currently protected in the United States and the areas that need priority protecting due to their research study on endemic species. This research study characterized species endemic based on two main vulnerabilities. The first being species within small geographical ranges, which is often correlated with local rarity, and the second being species that are sparsely distributed across long ranges. Their findings show that while the United States has set aside a large percentage of protected lands, these areas do not match where the endemic species reside. Currently, most of the protected lands are in the inner portions of the West around the Rocky Mountains, while the endemic species are most often found along the West Coast and in the Southeast. This article is a response to the Jenkins et al. Article. The authors here are questioning whether focusing the priority on places and species is the best and only way to determine the most efficient land areas for conservation. The authors highlight four main additional points to consider when determining which land should be protected. Those points are highlighted here on the screen. In response to Brown et al., Jenkins et al. Published a follow-up article explaining the importance of placing high priority on species and places rather than economic efficiency. They reiterate that the methods they used in their study were based around the research of endemic species that are in need of greater protection than other species who are not endemic. They also state that while complementary theory may be somewhat effective, it confuses the biological priorities for conservation with the obstacles that must be overcome to protect them. The Jenkins et al. Study was composed in order to provide a visual aid where these species, defined as endemic, were located. The visual map is a tool to be used to call to action those responsible for designating and protecting areas for biodiversity. An article by Jarvis et al. Explains how the lack of forward thinking about local implementation during the initial research creates a gap which inadvertently halts conservation progress. Without a clear, effective, and reachable action plan described in the research, local communities will not have the knowledge and ability to put the research into action plan at the ground level. There must be some effort to bridge this gap between the initial research studies and the following community implementation if we are to see more effective conservation in the future. The following are the research questions developed from the previous research. This map shows all of the lands that are currently protected within the United States. The darker the green circle, the larger the area protected. This map shows the relationship between the slope and hillshade of the United States and the lands we currently have protected. As you can see, most of our protected lands fall on a sloped landscape. This map shows the priority conservation areas outlined by Jenkins et al. As you can see, most of the priority conservation areas lie along the west coast and the southeast. This map shows the relationship between the priority conservation areas outlined by Jenkins et al. And the lands we currently have protected. While there are some areas that overlap on the western half of the United States, much of what Jenkins et al. Suggests as high priority for conservation is currently unprotected. We are able to draw a few conclusions from this research. Those conclusions are outlined on the screen. Thank you for watching this presentation on conservation mismatch.